Hi, everyone. Who has seen these tools? Oh, good, raise your hands. These are shovels. The first time I used a shovel, I was about 6 years old when my parents bought me a small kid shovel. What about these? These are Allen wrenches. And if you've ever bought anything from IKEA, you definitely know what these are. Now, what about this? This is a double inhale breathing exercise diagram. You may be thinking, Ash, what do these three things have to do with each other? And the truth is, on the surface, they have nothing to do with each other. But if we dig a little deeper, what we know is that these three tools can be used to make a situation different or better. You see, from a young age, people in the agriculture industry are taught to use tools like shovels and Allen wrenches. And we know these tools like the back of our hand. Shovel is used to dig things, Allen wrenches are used to tighten things. And we use these tools every single day. These tools, along with upkeep, are essential for everything to work effectively. And by doing so, the agriculture industry in California alone, according to the California Department of Food and Ag, has grown to produce $51 billion worth of agricultural products in 2021 alone. While we're a leader in the agriculture space here in this state and Central Valley, we're also a leader in suicide rates by industry, according to the CDC. Farmers and ranchers can be struggling with burnout, overwhelm, stress, anxiety, and depression. So it's got me wondering, wow, if we are doing so well in the professional space, struggling so much in our personal life, where could the industry be if we began to take care of our mental health and our emotional well-being? Could we increase innovation? Could we increase profitability? Could we increase production to continue to feed everyone? In 2016, it rained a ton on our ranch. And I began to learn that the farmers and ranchers around us, some of them were struggling emotionally. And I got a call from a neighbor, and I could tell by the sound of her voice, it was shaking. She was having a hard time. She was feeling really upset. Could also tell from the sounds on the other side of the phone that she was in her truck outside, so I could tell she was at work. She began to tell me that she was having a hard time breathing, she was having a hard time getting out of bed in the morning, and the stress from the dairy was just becoming overwhelming and feeling too much. I suggested that she go and find a therapist for her to talk to. Also at this time, I was about 3 months postpartum. I myself was struggling with postpartum anxiety, but I didn't tell anyone. I thought, I help people with their feelings, and I specialize that. But mine, I'm just gonna push that deep, deep, deep down. So I was on my quest to find resources for my friend, and what I found in our area is that the resources were almost non-existent. Either people didn't understand our lifestyle, or they didn't have the professional background to help others with their mental health. And this wasn't just in our areas. I talked to people across the country. They too, who were struggling, were having a hard time finding resources. So again, this question pops up. Wow, if we're doing so much in the ag space, professionally, struggling so much in our personal life, where could we be if we utilized mental health and emotional well-being tools? Where could we be if we utilized these tools as much as we utilize these other tools? So then I started to find some resources that farmers and ranchers and really anyone could add to their mental health toolbox. Now, these tools aren't a substitute for a licensed therapist, psychiatrist, or a psychologist. However, they're tools just to keep in your back pocket, just to keep in your toolbox when things feel a little hard. The first tool to add to your toolbox is breathing exercises. So again, I was like 3 months postpartum. I was sitting in my bed. My baby was in our bassinet next to me. And I was Googling breathing exercises to teach my friend. And my husband was supposed to come take care of our baby for a little bit so that I could have some time to myself. And the door creaks open. And I could tell by the look on his face. You know, the one that says, I know I said I could help, but something came up. It looks kind of like this. Well, something did come up, and he had to go take care of some calves. And that quote, "What we resist persists," by Carl Jung, has never rang more true in my life, and I started hysterically crying. All those feelings I thought that I had pushed deep, deep down, they were coming out like a fountain. My husband's face, which was at the time this, remember? Then proceeded to shock as he slowly started to approach me and started rubbing my back. I began to take deep breaths to calm and recenter myself. You see, breathing tools, they're this really amazing tool that we can use to calm our body when our emotions begin to feel like too much for our body to handle. Dr. Andrew Huberman is a neuroscientist out of Stanford, and he talks about the double inhale breathing exercise, also known as cyclical breathing. And what you do is you take a 4-second inhale, pause, take a quick 1-second inhale, and then an extended exhale through our mouths. It looks like this. The cool thing about this breathing exercise is that you can do it and it'll lower your anxiety or stress-reduced responses immediately. And if you do it regularly, you can lower your baseline of that. Huberman says that if you're in a stressful situation, because you can do this breathing exercise, you actually don't have to disengage. So as a farmer or rancher, this is important because our jobs are inherently kind of stressful. So you can continue to do your work, do this breathing exercise, and continue to feel level and regulated. The next tool to add to our toolbox, thought inspection. My then neighbor, now friend, called me again, this time to tell me that she was going to be planting something new on her property. Her animal's nutritionist told her it'd be good for the cows, and she was excited to try something new. Well, it wasn't but 2 months later where she called me again, this time to tell me they had to rip everything out because none of it grew very well. And she was feeling like a failure. She was really feeling down on herself. And I knew she was seeing a therapist. So I asked her, well, what would your therapist say? She put on her best therapist face. She said, well, she'd say, I wonder what else is true. And she began to tell me about this tool that her therapist had taught her. When she was feeling really down on herself, she was supposed to ask herself, what else do you know to be true? This question is rooted in cognitive behavior therapy, which is a type of therapy that helps us become aware of inaccurate or negative thought patterns. And so I asked her, well, what else do you know to be true? She responded with, you are so annoying. And then, after we laughed, she said, I tried something and it didn't work out. I tried my hardest, and sometimes you take risks and they don't go the way you want, and that's okay. I guess at least I'm not left wondering what if. You see, if my friend hadn't challenged that negative thought processy, it could begin to affect her later on. Maybe she would have a lower self-confidence. Maybe she would be less likely to take risks. The next tool to add to our toolbox is community. It's been 6 years-ish since my then neighbor, now friend, called me, since we both shared that we were struggling, since we both started taking care of our mental health and emotional well-being, since we started putting in different tools, since we started seeing therapists. And since we've done this, we've been able to build a really deep, meaningful social connection. Dr. Emma Sapala is a researcher out of Stanford, and she talks about the importance of social connection. And what she's found is that people who have deep levels of social connection actually are lower risk of disease, they have better immune systems, and they're better at regulating their responses and their emotions. So how do we begin to build really valuable social connection? Dr. Brene Brown, she's a research scientist out of Texas, and she studies shame and vulnerability and connection. And she says the way to build social connection and community is to first and foremost show yourself compassion and kindness. And after you do that, you're then really able to fully show others kindness and compassion as well. And that's how you begin to build a community of really deep, meaningful, connected people around you. Now, where would the agriculture industry be if we added tools to our toolbox like community, breathing exercises, and thought inspection? Well, what I can say for my friend is since she's added these tools to her toolbox, she's doubled her business size, started a new business, increased her profitability, bettered the relationships around her, and lowered her anxiety. So, I want you to think, whether you're taking things one step at a time right now, or you're at the top of your game, where could you be if you added these 3 tools to your toolbox? Thank you.